All right.
Here, 1 week later, we had over 500 views on last week's.
I saw 584, or it's up to date.
Oh, wow. Well, that's pretty significant.
Yeah.
It shows you people are hungry for this.
Yeah.
So tonight we're going to talk about the right brain, left brain syndrome. We're going to talk about neural organization. And how's it working out for you so far with your kids?
Well, it's been a great journey for us, just with those really simple things that we're doing. We've noticed that the kids have been able to change behavior that before they couldn't, and really have appreciated that it feels like there's hope, where before it was we knew what was going on, but we didn't know how to deal with it.
Well, hope's a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to explain some of that tonight. We're going to go into how the brain is organized, because obviously if your child's brain is disorganized, you're going to have disorganized function. You're not going to have organized function. Hey, here's our lovely waitress.
Thank you, dear.
That point, I didn't know what it's like.
Okay.
So I want to talk about the hemispheres of the brain, and then we're going to get to some of the aberrations, some of the problems in the brain organization. And I think you're going to recognize some of these. So there's two hemispheres to the brain. Everybody pretty much knows that, shaped like a walnut. But in between those two hemispheres is the corpus callosum, which is about as big as your thumb. And it sits up between the hemispheres, and all the information's got to shoot across that hemisphere. From one hemisphere to the other, shoot across that corpus callosum. And the interesting thing is, when you're going from one side of the brain to the other side of the brain, everything gets turned backwards and upside down.
Mm-hmm.
So the other side of your brain says, wait, coming in backwards and upside down. And so it turns it right side up and forwards. And the brain's pretty smart. It does this at over 430 miles an hour. Anyway,
Just a quick thought, by the way, for any of you who are taking notes as Greg is talking, I'm already finding myself wanting to remember some things, so I encourage you to grab a piece of paper, open your phone. That's what I'm doing, so you can jot down things you want to remember if you have questions to ask,
right,
so that we can ask them.
and I'll go ahead and post the notes on Facebook later. Now we're going to put this up on YouTube like we did last week, so it'd be a little easier for people to find. At any rate, let's talk about the two hemispheres of the brain. You got a left hemisphere and a right hemisphere. So these hemispheres do different things. And on one side of your brain, the left brain side, there's logics. Everybody knows that? The Spock is the left brain. The other side of the brain has emotions, right? So you'll see a dichotomy going here between Spock and Captain Kirk. So Captain Kirk was the emotional one, and guess who was the logical one? Spock, the Vulcan. So in the left hemisphere, you have math and science. And interestingly, in the right hemisphere, you have art and creativity. So you see how we get a juxtapose, we get a dichotomy here going. You have language in the left hemisphere, and you have music in the right hemisphere. Time and measurement is in the left hemisphere. In the right hemisphere is infinity. You know, I mean, infinity is not, you can't put a number on it. But you also have no lines. There's no lines. There's no big rules. So there's a difference there. Consequences are in the left brain. Impunity is in the right brain. The left brain reads the instructions. The right brain says, I don't need no stinking instructions. I can do this myself and get the smelly thumbs going. Where the left brain says, no, wait, gotta have instructions. So the alphabetical filing system is over here. Your numeric system is over here. Over here is trivia on this side. So you see how got the left brain, right brain, and you can kind of divide personalities up that way too. Left brain personalities and right brain personalities. So I'm a right brain personality. So I'm the creative person. I can start more projects than I can finish. And my wife is my counterbalance. She's my left brain. So she says, honey, don't you need the instructions? I said, well, he used to say a lot more. He used to say, I don't need no stinking instructions. But now more and more I listen to that left brain, right mind. And I think God put it in our beings to seek balance. We seek out balance. So a lot of times you see a couple, you see this balance going. You get two right brain creative people living together, there's no budget. And it's party city until the funds run out. And if you have two left brain people living together, they go off to their own corners, they do their own studying, all this stuff. And their budget's great. You know, lots of money to manage and no party to go to until they find the right brain person. So, the left hemisphere of the brain controls the right side of the body, as you know that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, have basic knowledge. The right side of the brain controls the left side. And this is really important when it comes to the dichotomy we're talking about, where we have logics in the left hemisphere, emotions in the right hemisphere, where we have language in the left hemisphere, music over here, where we have math and science here, we have creativity, artsy, painter stuff on the right-hand side.
My dad was left-handed and always said he was the only one in his right mind.
Well, interestingly, when I started in the neurodevelopment field back in the 90s, there was about 3% of the population was left-handed. Now it's about 10%. It's actually gone up. So some people say it's up to 15%. So I remember in grade school, well, I was in a Catholic school, and the nun would walk around with that big wooden ruler. And any kid trying to use their left hand, pow! And they'd have to go to their right hand. Well, that's not fair.
Yeah.
Because you have to have a dominant hemisphere of your brain. And if you are right-handed, you should be right-footed, right ear, right eye. If you are left-handed, you should be left eye, left ear, left foot dominant. And when you start mixing that up, so when we get into the aberrations, when we get into the problems. So let's look at this. Anybody ever known a stroke victim that lost their language? And typically, if they're a right-handed person, the stroke is over here, they've lost their language, the right side of their body doesn't work. Get the picture? They can't talk. And they struggle, they have to relearn how to talk. But here's what's interesting. If they have the stroke in the left hemisphere, they're crippled on the right side of their body, and they've lost their language, guess what wasn't affected? Their music. Music was not affected. They could sing. They could still sing. And I've seen this in church, the stroke victim that a stroke in the left hemisphere, they lost their language, crippled on the right side, and Amazing Grace came on, the choir was singing, and they stood up and they sang Amazing Grace with tears flowing, and the whole crowd was going, oh, it's a miracle, it's amazing. Was it a miracle? It was wonderful, but the music hemisphere was not damaged, but the language hemisphere was. Okay, let's take another case study. You have to be older to know this. Who was Mel Tillis? Anybody out there? Who was Mel Tillis?
He's a good country.
You don't know who Mel Tillis was? Is okay. What's Mel Tillis famous for?
Wow, I'm trying to think here. But he stuttered really bad. I know. He could sing.
Stuttered.
Yeah.
Bad stuttered.
Yeah, he couldn't talk.
Yeah, I've seen him on a TV show where he started back in the 80s, and I think it was a MacGyver and he stuttered so bad. But what happened when he got a microphone, a guitar? Beautiful. Beautiful. You know, we could fix that. We could fix that real easy. I had a speech pathology professor who had a really bad stutter. Can you picture that? A speech pathology professor at a university, and he stuttered really bad. And I said, I can fix that. Well, that's ridiculous. You can't fix that. And I bet I can. Sure enough, it took 2 weeks to fix it. And I'll tell you how in a little while. Stay with us. There's the hook. So, with Mel Tillis and with this professor, they were mixed dominant. So I'll give that away. We'll cover that in a little more detail later.
So with mixed dominant, when you say that, is it like my dad was left-handed, and yet he golfed and played baseball right-handed?
Uh-huh.
And so he wrote with one hand, but in other ways that would be a mixed dominant idea?
That would be mixed dominant. You're supposed to be right hand, right foot, right eye, right ear, or you're supposed to be left all the way.
Okay.
And I actually had a child come to my clinic years ago. He was climbing a tree and he touched a power line. And it absolutely blew his right arm off. Very sad. He survived, but he was such a mess. And the parents brought him to me, and they said, we can't, he's suicidal, he's this, he's that, and this is a kid. And I said, well, he was right-handed, now he doesn't have a right hand. But he was still right eye, right ear, right footed. So you see the problem? He had to use his left hand. When we switched him over to left eye, left ear, left hand, left foot, all the problems went away. You can switch it. Isn't that interesting? The brain is very plastic, neuroplasticity. The healthy part of the brain will take over the function of an injured part if you send the signals. We talked about cow trails last week. Send the cows down that trail, it gets wide, it gets deep. Quit sending the cows down, the grass and the weeds grow up. Right? You send them down another path, that one goes wide, that one goes deep. And the grass quits growing on that trail. Same thing with the brain. You have to send the signals to another area. Or in this kid's case, we had to reorganize his brain and put his subdominant hemisphere on this side and put his dominant hemisphere on this side. So, very interesting. Those are some very thankful parents. So some of the symptoms of mixed dominance lead to a diagnosis of ADHD, dyslexia. Oh my gosh. You know, it's so easy to cure dyslexia. And I didn't invent it.
Really?
I did not invent it. You guys should have heard this back in the 60s. You should have heard it back in the 40s and 50s. And there was even a study in 2000 that I've cited on my website where they figured out how to cure dyslexia easily. Quite a statement, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, so how does dyslexia happen? We talked about the hemispheres, and we talked about the corpus callosum. It's about as big as your thumb. It sits between the hemispheres. All the stuff races from one hemisphere to the other. Across the corpus callosum, it's turned upside down and backwards. Not just backwards like a mirror image, but upside down and backwards. So let's say you're supposed to be right ear dominant, right eye dominant, right hand dominant, right foot dominant. But you're not. You are right foot, right hand, right ear, bang, left eye. Anything you take in the left eye goes to the subdominant hemisphere if you're a right-handed person. If you're a left-handed person, stick it in the mirror. Okay, but we're talking to the majority of people are right-handed, so when I say right-handed, if you're a lefty or your child's a lefty, just flip it over. Okay, so left eye dominant. Anything you take in this left eye, like math, reading, goes over here to the subdominant hemisphere, where trivia lives, where emotions lives, where art is. But this side, not the math computation side. This side is the math computation side. So the brain has to take it, race it across the corpus callosum to the other side. It's turned upside down and backwards. And the other side goes, okay, wait. I got to straighten this out. So it's a processing issue now. So it comes through here, goes the emotional side, needs to be in the logical side. So already you've got a kid that you want to do math, and the kid's going like, I hate math. Oh, I hate math. They will melt down. They will be so emotional over their math. That's ridiculous. And, yeah, you see what's going on in the crowd here. Everybody's agreeing. And it gets turned upside down and backwards. So all the numbers are jumbled. They're reading the book. And they're dyslexic. They're reading the sentences backwards. They're moving letters around in their brain, and that's dyslexia. And that's what caused it. In this case, was being left eye dominant. So we've got a big old cow trail going from the left eye. So the body's preferring the left eye. What do we got to do? We got to trim the cow trail on this side. And we got to send all the cows down this side. So you put, if they wear glasses, you put some dish soap on that left lens. So you can still see through it, they can still get light. Or you can use a patch, Pirate's patch. Now what happens when you occlude this eye, they're relying on this eye. So this trail is going to grow wider, deeper. This trail is going to get some weeds. It's going to die off. It will atrophy. If you leave that patch on, then I will die. We don't want to do that. But it takes a few weeks. You've established this eye as a dominant eye now. And as soon as you put this patch on, anything they're taking in this eye has to go to the logical side of the brain, where it needs to be stored. So you're bypassing the emotions, except for the first couple weeks. They're going to hate that patch. It hurts my eye! I can't see, I'm going blind. It's terrible. Some of the stories I've heard about how it's damaging them. And then 2 weeks after that, it's like, oh, wait. I'm not getting this. Let me put my patch on. And now they've got their math. And mom and dad, homeschool mom and dad are, and it's not getting stored in the trivia center. So they need it. When they need their 7 times 7 is how much? It's right there. It's 49.
So
must have been in your trivia center.
Do you leave that on all day, or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when they're doing something. Now, if you're driving, don't wear
Okay.
it. If you're trying to catch a ball, don't wear it.
Yeah.
You know. But if you're doing math, school, watching TV, wear it. If you're not driving, wear it. And you will establish this eye as dominant. Now, if this was a left-handed person, put it in the mirror. If they're not left eye dominant, there's a problem. And it's disorganization. It disorganizes the brain, and you have to tell the child, we want to see some organized output. We want you to be able to do your math organized, and they're disorganized. We got a tornado going through a wrecking yard, and we're expecting it to assemble a fully working school bus.
So a question then, is the dominant side the opposite side of the brain from the dominant side of the eye you know, is going to be the organizational side, regardless of. So a left person's dominant side, their organizational side, will actually be
the right hemisphere.
the right hemisphere.
Correct.
So it isn't that they're more creative because they're left-handed. It's that they're the organizational side of their brain is actually the other side of the brain does that.
Yeah. Now some people, even left brain people, left brain personalities, are some of your best painters, musicians, because they're more structured, they're more disciplined, because discipline lives in the dominant hemisphere.
Mm-hmm.
But the music, the creativity, all that lives in the right hemisphere, the subdominant hemisphere. So it might be easier to call them dominant, subdominant rather than right and left.
Mm-hmm.
Dominant hemisphere is going to have math, logic, language, time, space, measurements. And the right side is going to be emotional, artsy, music, that kind of stuff. So if you have a child who's all emotional and you're trying to do something logical, what's the problem? They're in their emotional hemisphere. And you've seen that here in the last couple of weeks. You're going through that. You're living that with your kids. And it's going to get even more interesting. It's going to get better. It's going to get better yet. So dyslexia, we had ADHD. Had all these 13 symptoms up and you got ADHD. That's so they can medicate it, so they can get a program, a system, a prescription, surgery, anything. They want to classify this, put a name on it. It gets disorganized. They're mixed dominant. That's just some of the problems. We're going to go through more mobility issues and neonatal development issues and stuff like that as we go along. But you got your slow thinker. Well, let's say they're the mixed dominant kid. And it's coming in their left eye when it should be coming in their right eye. So it goes over here to the trivia center, the emotional center, and it's switching it over to the logic center. And they're going like, okay, wait, I've got to think this through. I've got to slow this down. Everything's upside down and backwards. And they may actually need that extra space where their brain says, okay, we're not going to mess this up. And they're the slow thinker. They can't snap to it. But if it's going in the right eye, it goes bang, right in the filing system, there it is. So all your math tables should be there. Skip counting is awesome. But you need to do it. If you're right-handed, you need to make sure the right eye, the right ear are dominant. And don't do it singing. Why? We learned with the ABCs last week. Do you remember what I said? What came before the letter L? Did you have to sing to get there? If you had to sing to get to A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L. Okay, it was K. You have to sing it and back up one. You put it, it's been put in your musical center. Not a bad thing, except you need to know, okay, before the letter L, without having to sing it, if you want it in that filing cabinet, it's got to be put through this hemisphere and stored there. So, poor judgment. Oh boy. Poor judgment. Got a left eye dominant kid going through emotions. What's their judgment going to be like? There's no time over here, right? And come on. Remember, there's no time in this subdominant hemisphere. So let's say we have little Johnny Jump Up, one of my favorite characters. And mommy says, Johnny, I want you to come in 20 minutes. We're gonna do supper. So Johnny's got 20 minutes to go play. But little Johnny's mixed dominant. And remember, time in space is over here. Good, solid judgment is over here. So mommy sends him out to go play. We're going to eat in 20 minutes, Johnny. 45 minutes later, mommy's at the back door going, Johnny, jump up. You get in there. I told you we were going to eat in 20 minutes. What are you still doing out playing? He's like, what? 45 minutes? He said, 20. Oh, man, he's up in the apple tree. Right? So he's 15 and a half foot up in the apple tree. Logically, that's a long way to jump. Emotionally, it's like quickest way down, baby. Let's jump.
Hey, Lars, before you say, do you want to turn the heat down a little bit? Or is everybody else warm enough? It seems really warm.
Yeah, we're in Ferndale, Washington in the winter.
We still have snow outside.
So you guys in Florida, well, haters will hate. Poor judgment. So Johnny says, I'm in trouble. I didn't know it was this long. I better get there quick. So he jumps. Because distance doesn't mean anything to the subdominant hemisphere of the brain. So he jumps. Little Johnny's out there playing kickball. Right? And Snowball Pete, he kicks that ball. It's going for the street. And Johnny jump up and says, I gotta get that ball. I ain't the ball. That ball's not going to the street. No way. He will run all the way to the street after that ball because he's making poor judgment decisions from the emotional hemisphere. God bless you.
Excuse me.
We're sneezing for him.
Is that from the left side or the right side?
I think I just lost part of both sides.
Did you lose your math?
Yeah, I'll be
Did you lose your
back.
math tables then?
You go ahead. I'll be back in a minute.
So poor judgment, poor sense of time, because he's disorganized. So they take him to the specialist. Specialist said, oh, he's ADHD, we're going to have a drug for that. Put him on Ritalin, it'll slow them down. That's what ADHD is about, labeling them to put them in a program with a drug. When the problem is they are mixed dominant. Not every time, but not every time it's going to be eyes. Sometimes it's going to be ear. If your ear's mixed dominant. But you see how little Johnny's set up? He doesn't know how long 20 minutes is because time's not over here, time's over here. He's processing from the emotional side of the brain. He's making poor decisions. And he chases the ball in the street where Snowball Pete, he's chasing the ball, he stops at the curb and looks both ways because he saw what happened to Freddy the cat.
Yeah.
Well, Freddy the cat didn't make it. And Snowball Pete logically says, but Johnny Jump Up says, I can get this ball. In fact, he might even think, if somebody sees me, they'll stop. I don't know. Who knows when they're processing on the poor judgment side? Their focus is on getting that kickball. So you see where the setup is? You see where the problem is? So we're going to drug them for it, right? Poor sense of time, distractibility. Oh. Distractibility. So they're supposed to be focused on the teacher with that right eye. So they get in the logic center. It goes in the file where it belongs. We're talking about the right-handed kid. But he's left eye dominant. Wow, there's a butterfly going past the window. Is that dust floating in the air? Or if they're mixed dominant in their ears, they're hearing things. And it distracts them. Distractibility. And that's one of the symptoms for ADHD. Distractibility. So let's drug them. No, let's not drug them. How about if we do the old cow trail thing? We stick an earplug in this ear. And now all the cows are going down the trail in this ear, establishing this ear for the dominant ear. Because you earplug this ear. Because they're supposed to be right-handed, right ear, right eye, right foot. Okay? Poor coordination. I had a hockey player from one of the major hockey teams. And he came from a hockey town in Canada, Thunder Bay, Canada. And he was sitting on the second string. And he knew, his parents knew, his whole town knew that he should be first string. He was that good of a player. But he was second string. He was a bench warmer. And he seldom got to play because he'd make emotional decisions. Came to me and he was left-eye dominant. Should have been right-eye dominant. So he's chasing the hockey puck down the ice. And here comes the Malachi Crunch. The two guys going to give him a big sandwich and give him a bone crusher. And he gets emotional. And he misses his shot. He misses the pass off. We reorganized his brain. He became first string. And then Thunder Bay, Canada, the parents there said, we want to hear you. So I flew up there in January. Not a good idea. Thunder Bay, Canada. To lecture a bunch of hockey people about brain organization. Because the organized brain can make good decisions. Now, it's okay to be ambidextrous, but you still have to have a dominant hemisphere. You have to have a dominant hemisphere. And if you think you're totally equally ambidextrous, you're just disorganized. Now, it's okay to be able to shoot right-handed and shoot left-handed, but you better have a dominant side, a strong side. Okay? It's okay to be able to bat right-handed and then switch up to bat left-handed. I do my hands right. It's okay, but you still got to have your dominant side so that you can make logical decisions. You still need to have dominant right foot. And if you're in the Army and you're going to be a sniper, or if you're taking rifle, you're supposed to be right-handed, right-eyed, right ear. It's okay to be left-handed, but you're going to shoot left eye. And they know this in the Army. How many here shotguns? Have you shot guns? Can you imagine being left-eye dominant and having to hold it right-handed and get your... It's almost impossible. I see kids try it. And maybe the instructor's on them enough. Well, any good NRA instructor will know, okay, this kid needs to be shooting with the right eye. Lead with the right eye there, Johnny. Johnny, jump up. I told you. You know, look with the right eye. Well, one of my own grandkids, we were at the rifle range, and she was having trouble. She kept trying to, jump over the sight with her left eye. So we put some duct tape over her eyeglasses. She was nailing it. It was great. So if you're a shooter, if you're going for your NRA rankings, you can even if you're not even sure if you're mixed dominant, go ahead and tape that left eye up, and it will help. Or if you're left-handed, shooting left-handed, occlude the right eye. So poor coordination, control the body parts. There's a lot of confusion. If you're trying to kick a ball with your left foot, but your right hand, right eye, right ear dominant, it's going to mess you up. But your left foot's the strong one. That's the one that you want to use. That's the one you want to lead with. Well, you got to fix that. I'll tell you some clues on how to fix that here in a little bit. Academic shortfalls. Well, no, he's ADHD. Drug him. No, don't drug him. Let's fix it. Find the cause and fix it. ADHD is a bunch of symptoms. It's not even a disease. It's not a disorder. It's only a bunch of symptoms they're trying to use to classify little Johnny Jump Up so they can drug him. Or they can get him in a therapy program so they can get more academic money for their school funding. Whatever. We covered stuttering, right? Now, if your child's 3 to 5 years old and they start stuttering, that's okay. If they're right-handed right eye, right ear, right foot. It seems to be what they're settling in. They're gonna work it out. They're trying to establish their dominance. If they're 5, 6, 7 years old stuttering, then you can need to see are they right-handed or left-handed. How do you do that? Which hand does Johnny jump up to use to eat a cereal? To brush his hair, comb his hair, brush his teeth, right with. He's going to be right hand dominant. Right? So then the right eye, right ear, right foot should follow. So, inaccurate distance perception. Couldn't measure with a measuring stick. I've seen it. It's because they're mixed dominant. Well, it's a yardstick, but that's 6 foot. That's not even that's 2 yards. So what do you mean? You don't know how long that is. It's in the wrong hemisphere of the brain. Brain disorganization and a host of other inefficiencies of the brain. Disorganized brain, and we want organized function out of it. Not happening, folks, is it? Okay, see the picture? So, let's talk about dyslexia. We said there's an easy cure for it. Dyslexia actually comes from a Greek word. And anybody who comes out in my Bible studies has been around me knows that I love the Greek. I love to study the Greek. And Parker's going like, oh my gosh, yes, he does. Well, it comes from the Greek
That
word
explains it.
dys or dis, which means poor or inadequate. And lexia, which means language and words. Dyslexia, poorly organized words. And sometimes math. If it's getting turned upside down and backwards in their brain, trying to race across the corpus callosum, and their numbers are getting all jumbled up, we see the problem, don't we? There it is, easy to fix. So, when they're batting right hand, no wait, they can't, because they're left eye dominant, so they have to bat lefty. But they write with their right hand. Well, that's going to cause dyslexia. That's going to cause brain disorganization. It's going to cause some problems. Let's work on the ear a little bit. So you're supposed to be dominant side on everything. Wouldn't be good. Right eye, right ear, right hand, right foot. Let's say it's the left ear. That's dominant, and it should be the right ear. And I've seen this. I've done a lot of marriage counseling. And here comes the husband and the wife. The husband and wife come in, and the husband says, she always thinks I'm picking on her. She always thinks that I'm mad at her for some reason. And then she goes, do you see what I'm talking about? Did you hear that? He's so mad at me right now. He's just barely containing it. And I'm like, no, he wasn't. She heard it through her left ear, went to the emotional side, bam, it was over. You're yelling at me, you're mad at me, She was mixed dominant in the ears. He was mixed dominant in the ears. She's always nagging at me. Oh my gosh, nag. Everything out of her mouth. It's like, well, it's filtered to the emotional side. And it can wreck a marriage. It can wreck a schoolroom. If you're disorganized here, because now they can't quite hear what these kids are whispering about me, I just know they are. Because it's filtered through the emotional side. You're mixed dominant. A lot of emotionality comes with the mixed dominance. When the left ear is dominant, but it shouldn't be. And if you're a lefty, if you're a left-handed person, then your left ear should be dominant. And your right ear should be the subdominant. So you just put this in a mirror. And like I said, this develops between age 3 and 5, so don't think your 18-month-old has to pick a side. They can. That's fine. They can. That's good. That's whatever. Don't influence them. Hand them the spoon at midline. Let them pick it up. And let them figure out their preference. Their brain will sort it out. And if it doesn't, they're 5 or 6 years old, they're stuttering, then we need to pick a side. Or we need to say, okay, well, they're preferring the right hand. Everything they do, but they're kicking left-footed, and they're listening with their left ear, then we need to make sure everything gets over to the right side. Does it make sense? You're going to be checking your kids this evening. If they're not in bed when we get through. You're going to be checking them tomorrow. I'll tell you how to check all this stuff here in a little bit. So, when they're emotional, can you negotiate with an emotional kid? They are shut down. I know this. They are gone. They're out of it. You might as well go do something else. Because all you're going to do is be mean and nasty to them. Trying to make them do what you want them to do that's not emotional. Now, there's 2 avenues. We discussed one avenue last week about the marching that organizes the brain and puts them in the logical hemisphere of the brain. But what if they keep getting knocked out?
It gives mom and dad a chance to get organized into the right side of the brain, too.
Yes. Right, okay, kids, we're all marching.
Or you go march, and I'm just going to breathe deeply for a while.
Oh, that too. But if you march with them, it'll help.
Yeah.
If you start to get emotional. And emotionality, I mean, we're chasing the rabbit trail again. We're backing up to last week a little bit. But husband and wife have a spat. The wife marches out, well, I'll go for a walk. And out there marching and walking around the block. And she gets back and it's like, I got this all sorted. Honey, I know what we can do. I know how to fix this. Because she got organized. As long as she's not listening with her left ear, we should be her right ear. When the husband says, okay, honey, what is it? Instead of her hearing, okay, honey, what is it? Then she will hear it normal. Instead of filtering it through the emotional hemisphere. This works with husbands and wives. This works with kids. It's great. But why are they emotional? Sometimes it's because they're mixed dominant. They're filtering it through the emotional hemisphere. So, if they're out playing in the yard, they're going to be in the emotional hemisphere. They're going to be inventing. They're going to be, it's not fair to send a kid out and say, 20 minutes, we're going to eat. Now go play. That's not fair. You say, okay, I'm going to call you in 20 minutes. Ooh, I don't know how that long is. How long is that? They don't know because they're playing. Right? So like I was teaching last week, I mentioned last week, and I was teaching teachers in Arizona to do their classroom. They're out there playing. And little Mary Mormon is playing with her dolls, and she's housekeeping, and she's got the other girls, and Johnny Jump Up, Snowball Pete. They're up in the rocket ship, up the ladder, and they're all emotional, inventing. And then the teacher says, class, come in. Bell rings, time to come in. And they're still playing with their dolls and playing with their rocket ship somewhere else. And now we got to sit down and do math. Really? So what did I tell the teacher? Go out there and say, okay, everybody line up. Maggie Muggins, you're in the front. You're the leader today. Okay, everybody march. March into the classroom. March around the chairs. Everybody sit. Okay, now you're ready to do math. You're going to watch from the hemisphere. If your dominant ear, eye, hand, and foot are matching. Make sense? Emotionality is the state of being prone to or dominated by emotional responses when logical responses or more subtle responses are appropriate. But we want our kid to act all grown up. We want them to make logical decisions, but their brain's disorganized, so they're not. Not the kid's fault. In fact, it's your fault now, because you're learning this. You're going to have to go through this and sort it out. You are the parents, you're the one responsible. Your school system's not going to get it. A few school systems, maybe. A few teachers in a few school systems, maybe. For the most part, they're not going to get it. They're not going to understand all this. And then the kid, you know, the most you see eye patching for is usually because they have a strabismus, they're cross-eyed. So they're going to patch one eye to strengthen the weaker eye. But watch out if you patch the wrong eye. Watch out. In fact, strabismus, we'll talk about that in another session, cross-eyed, is a brain disorganization problem. It's not a muscle problem with the eyes, because they do the surgery thing where they stretch a muscle and they shorten a muscle, and now the eyes are tracking. And look at Johnny, we're looking at him, he's not cross-eyed anymore, isn't it great? And 3 weeks later, it's like, oh, sometimes I've got to do this 2 or 3 times, 5 times. I've seen 5 times, many times. Because this is treating the symptom, cutting, shortening, stretching muscles. That's only treating the symptoms. The real problem's in the brain. We fix the brain, the eyes coordinate, the brain says, I know what to do with this information now. Instead of ignoring one eye, which becomes the weak eye. Well, give me a rant. Stop with the surgeries. Fix the cause. We're treating symptoms. Cross-eyed, oh, they need surgery. No, they don't. Because surgery doesn't fix it. Sometimes it straightens it up long enough for the brain to go, oh, wait, I get it now. So it can work, but it wasn't the solution. The solution is the brain needs to understand the input from both those eyes and know what to do with it. There's therapy for that. Eye therapy for that. Tracking things we'll talk about. So, emotionality, state of being prone to or dominated by emotional responses, when logical or more subtle responses are more appropriate. Inappropriate responses include emotional meltdowns. That includes husband and wife. That includes kids, aunts and uncles, grandmas and grandpas. We're all there. Math or reading problems. Emotional meltdowns during math or reading problems. Exaggerated outbursts. Oh, the drama llama. Who has one of those? Hands going up. Immature responses to situations. I wish they would act 10 years old when they're 13, 14. Or say even act 10 years old. Because they're acting like 6-year-olds. Or I wish my 6-year-old would act like a 8 or 10-year-old, but they're acting like a 2-year-old. That's the subject for next week. We'll talk about that next week. A little more about that. But immature responses can also be because of the processing confusion in the brain. But here's a hook for next week. We're going to cover that in depth. So, the neurologically organized child, he's not going to chase that runaway ball out in the street. Sounds like the kids are having fun upstairs.
I mean, just leave it
In the locker room. Yeah, well, so let's talk about how to test this, because that's what you're really here for. You recognize the problem, right? Now we got to fix it. Because neural development is about what goes wrong with the brain and how to fix it. Okay, so we're seeing how the brain is disorganized. Now, how do we test it? We talked about how to test for the hand, right? With the right hand, picking up things with your right hand, using the right hand for a hammer. brushing their hair, brushing their teeth, if they brush their teeth.
Yeah.
Some people's kids. So that was pretty easy to figure out the hand. It's easy to figure out the foot too. You put a balloon in the middle of the room and say, go kick the balloon. Actually, at my clinic, I had a rubber chicken.
That's so much better.
Because rubber chickens don't fly. And these big brawny kids would come running and get that thing on 4 feet. But I'd say, aha, I see which foot to kick it with. So which foot do they kick with? When they're climbing stairs, which one do they put up first? If they're right-handed, should be their right foot. Okay? So that's how to test it. And we're going to figure out how to fix it here in a little bit too, before we're done. Okay, so the ear's a little more tricky. Okay? So what you can do, this is what I like to do. You face them like this. And then I'm going to hide my mouth and I'm going to whisper a word. Oh, he looked to the right. Because he's listening with his left ear.
I did, actually. I was.
Yeah. So which ear? You say.
No wonder I'm so confused. I have the wrong ear.
Well, we have to fix the parents before we fix the kids.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
Oh,
All right. So which ear do you put the phone to?
I don't know.
A little bit of
I
both.
do a little both. I do a lot of ambidextrous.
Okay. Right. Well, if you're trying to write something, you stick it to this ear so your right hand's free. Quite often. If you're driving, which you shouldn't be,
Yes.
you're probably using your right hand if you're right hand dominant. Hold the steering wheel. You should be using your knees. Just kidding. Just kidding.
Usually is my left knee.
So, yeah, and the kids say, like they used to have story time. I don't know if they got that up here, where you dial the library and they tell you a little 2-minute story for your kid.
Mm-hmm.
They used to have that in Texas. And I would dial it up, say, here, listen to this, and get the phone down right midline, so they would pick it up and or you say, 2 people, you say, okay, Dad, you sitting here, Mom, you go on the other side of the door and you start talking. And okay, Maggie Muggins, I want you to go listen to what your mom's saying. She's on the other side of the door. She goes up there, well, which ear does she put up to the door? So it's pretty easy to figure out if you're observing.
You got me wondering about me now.
Yep. Got to fix the parents for and fix the kids sometimes. So, right foot, right ear, oops, right ear, right eye. Little dyslexia going on. The right eye is pretty easy to figure out, right? If they're a shooter, if you've got guns, if they play Army, which parents are getting away from more and more. You can't have a gun, you can't shoot anybody in play, so they've stopped that, but you've got to find out one of the ways, back up. Okay, point at my finger with your finger. Okay, switch hands. Okay, so I'm looking through my right eye down his finger to his right eye. He is right eye dominant.
Uh-oh.
For sure.
But he used his left hand to play.
He is left-handed.
Oh,
But you're left-handed.
But he pointed down.
Left-handed, right-footed, right-eyed. I shoot right-handed.
Oh my
I shoot
gosh.
bow right-handed.
This is great.
So you're left.
But I'm left-handed completely.
He's sighted.
Left ear dominant. For sure, I know that.
Why? You're a case history.
Wow.
Case study for us.
You're a great case study. That explains everything,
I'm
doesn't
so
it?
happy.
But that's
Wow.
my music.
I'm
That's
glad you can make it.
Study him all.
I know, I've been saying.
No, I'm kidding. I need to be studying too. So.
It's going to mess you up for weeks.
I know I'm already walking around with my left eye closed. Like,
I know. He was just testing me, and I'm like, what?
Whew.
You and I, man, we can create a support group for those of us who are
Confused anonymous.
confused anonymous, exactly.
Okay, so it's easy to figure these things out.
Yeah.
You can test your child, you can test your spouse, and you can look at the symptoms we've been talking about too, and you can figure this out. And you can see, is my child right eye, right ear, right foot, right-handed? Or are they mixed dominant? If they're mixed dominant, you need to fix it. And the way to fix it is to send the cows down the cow trail, make it deep and wide, right? So you can include the subdominant eye, the one you want to be subdominant, right? If they're right-handed, we're going to want to include the left eye, if they're preferring the left eye. Send the signals down there, especially high intensity activities like video games. You know, Johnny, no more video games unless you're wearing your eye patch. You gotta wear your eye patch, Johnny.
So if I hear what you're saying, it doesn't actually matter which side you choose as long as everything is dominant on one side or the other.
Well, your brain knows.
Right.
It's going to pick a thing.
Well, some of us
But then
know,
they
but
get-
like, what about Justin? He's got two one way and two the other. So, like, which way do you try and get him to go?
We're going to have to look at that.
Yeah, I actually want to talk about that. 'Cause, yeah.
Again,
That's
we'll get a little more history going. This will be our case study. Oh, boy, a challenge.
yeah.
Because the
Always.
older you get,
The
it's a
harder.
little harder to switch it over. It can be done.
Yeah, my plasticity's gotten a little brittle.
Yeah, yeah, we're kind of like, we get like concrete. We're all completely mixed up and permanently set.
yeah.
But it can be changed. That stroke victims, you know, we're rewiring their brains. They're still, it's available in their 80s, 90s, 100s. Might be a little slower, might be a little more intense, but we can do it. So now we want to know how to fix it. Right? We're going to do that eye patch. We can do, if you ever taken a milk jug and clothespins, lean over the chair and drop them in the top of the milk jug. That is a game that you can play with the subdominant eye patched. And they've got to really, really focus. That is super intense. Intensity is good. Intensity is really good. You want a certain amount of intensity, a certain amount of duration, many times a day. And with kids, short. We talked about the flashcards with kids. I think we talked about that last week. If you want to teach a kid encyclopedia knowledge, start with the flashcards. Duck, train, cow, horse, mom, dad. And that quick. Then you can add things. Ducks have wings. Cows have udders. Ships have rudders. And you add one little piece, and then you can add another piece. Ducks have feathers. So here's your little 1-year-old learning about ducks and feathers, and not only that, you can flash the words. Not with the picture, but flash them separate. Say, this is duck. This is 4. That's 4 dots. And this is 8. This is 16. And dot map. They learn dot map. And we're going to cover next week a little more about that, because digits, numerals, are concepts which don't form solid in the brain until they're about 6 years of age. And phonetics are a concept. Who said the letter GH said, what are there, 5 combinations of GH sound makes? That's going to blow their little minds, because it's a concept. But they see the word laugh, it's laugh. They see the word elephant, that's not confusing, that's the word elephant. Right. So you can teach them to read. In fact, we taught my son Parker to to read with flashcards. And then he read. You were young. And then he learned all the words, and then he read the book. And that's how we learned to read. Because reading is visual memorization. So you don't see the word elephant and go, Ella, PH is that? Oh, elephant. Elephant. You don't sound how you see it, you go, elephant. And the child's brain is that quick. So when you're doing these therapies, except for the occluding, but when you're doing therapies, keep them short. Keep their math duration short. If they start to get emotional, it's over. Don't beat them up. Don't make it, or they're just going to hate math worse. Get them in their logical hemisphere. Bring it on with a little, small increments, small bites, big reward at the end. Okay, well, you go out to play when we get this done. And we're going to do math for 2 minutes, or math for 5 minutes if you can stretch them for 5. We're going to do reading for 5. I don't know. It's just, you got to learn your kid. You've got to know your kid. You're the experts. And everybody here in this class, not everybody out there in Facebook land or YouTube land, everybody here is homeschoolers. So you're the ones. Oh, you're not a homeschooler. Okay. Never mind. Most of the people here are homeschoolers. So occlude the eye, or you put an earplug in. Oh, that's going to hurt the ear. No, it's not. If you left it in there for 6 years, the wax will build up and get stuck, and I don't know. But during the day, it doesn't do any good at night because you're sleeping. But during the day, especially in high intensity activities. Oh, they really like music. Well, you can listen while you're doing your math if you got your earplug in. Some people can do it. And some of that's personality you got to figure out. Because when I go to write, I put on the headphones, I put on some nasty something that I don't even like. And Parker's heard it. And then I'm in the zone because I shut it out and I white out. Other people have to have it totally quiet. Shh. That refrigerator's running and I can't write. And some of that's personality, or it can even be mixed dominance in the ears. So you gotta know your kid. There's no cookie cutter for every kid here. Absolutely no cookie cutter to fit your kids. So, test the eye, occlude it. Test the ear, occlude it. Send them to school with an eye patch, a pirate's patch.
And a scarf for their head, too.
That's what?
Yeah.
And a scarf for their head, too.
Yeah, scarf.
No blacked out tooth.
Now we're getting it.
Yeah, see?
Make it fun.
Hey,
A couple of hair tattoos. Yeah, they probably can't carry the plastic sword to school. So.
No.
And times have just changed. It's a different time. When I was in grade school, 5th grade, I took my 410, Ivor Johnson 410, to school for show and tell.
Oh, gosh.
Cool.
I didn't carry any bullets. Nobody got upset. I didn't get sent home with it. Oh, cool. Look at that, 410. Oh, my gosh. It was the talk of the day for show and tell. It's a different time, different day now. We're not as safe as we were. Not getting better. But you can make your room better. Right? So we're, clear the ear, give them intense activities through here. Get all their schooling through here. You want their math tables to go to the logic hemisphere. You need it going through here. The teacher needs to be on the right side of their body, so this right eye, this right ear can be first. The teacher needs to set up the classroom where he or she has got all the right-handed kids on one side, left-handed kids right here, which should be one row of left-handed kids. And then that teacher needs to get to where the right-handed kids are getting her on the right side, him on the right side, and left-handed kids are getting them from the left side.
Hmm.
That would be ideal. That way it's going through the logic hemisphere. You want the math in the logic hemispheres. You do not want it in the trivia center. Because then you go to test them and it's like, where'd it go? Where'd it go? We just went over this. We went over it and over and over it. And you finally got it. Now where'd it go? And 2 or 3 weeks later, there it is, comes right out. Okay, with the foot, I love to take a balloon, tie a string on it, tie it, if you're trying to make the left foot dominant, tie it to the left foot with about that much string there. Kick that balloon. If you're trying to make the right hand dominant, or the right foot dominant, tie it to the right foot. Okay, kick that balloon with your right foot. And you can have them practice kicking the ball with their right foot. You can have them hop on their right foot. Here's the way to test for their foot dominance too. Okay, well, Johnny, don't tell them what you're testing for. Close your eyes. Okay, hop on one foot. Okay, and they hop on their left foot. That's their dominant foot. Okay, stand still, turn around. Okay, now stand on one foot. They stood on their left foot dominant. And you can have them hop on one foot, which is kind of funny. Make sure you take all the sharp-cornered objects out of the room. So we got the hand, the eyes, the ears, and the foot, and we're about out of time. We're only going to go about an hour. We're already over our time here.
It's all right.
So until next week. And next week we're going to work a little more. We're going to take a deep dive into neurodevelopment and how sequential processing works. All right? So for now, and I'll try to put some of these notes up on Facebook. We'll have this on YouTube. You can see last week's on YouTube, so you don't have to scroll all the way through all my feed. And we'll see you guys next week. You can kill the camera. Goodbye.